So I'm with Ron Wapsock and Patsy Sursa, who know a lot about the area in the Uinta Basin, and I've had a lot of questions for a lot of years about this stuff, and Patsy's been kind enough to put this together for me, and thank you, Patsy. So with that, first I want to know a few questions. One about Mel Fisher. It was said that Mel Fisher came out here into the Uintas. I don't know if you can talk about this or not. Can you talk about that?
I don't have a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Okay. So the stories, that I'd heard was that he had a map, and that the gold from the Etosha came from the Uintas, and then I went and met with the Fisher family, and they says no, they didn't have a map, but they did meet with the tribe and that. Do you have anything to go along with that, or any stories about Mel Fisher coming out here? And I know you do too, Patsy. I want to hear your stories.
It's better to start with Jim Phillips.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd heard that Jim Phillips had got a lease with the tribe for looking for some treasure. So tell me your side of what really happened there, because there's a lot of stories going around, and nobody knows what's really the truth. So
yeah, Jim Phillips, because that's kind of where everything started. But there also was another guy. I just think about it, and if I can remember his name. But anyway, he's the one that had a location in the river. Next to it is what they call Treasure Hill.
okay.
And so he starts to dig into the river, and then he makes deals with people in town for the heavy equipment. Yeah, that offers them, I think it was like 10% of all the above, are his cut. So he started to dig into the river. Then all of a sudden, the one day he was talking to me. He says, "What do you know about the canyon?" And I says, "Well, you probably want to get authorization," but he never did. There was a bunch of us, and he went from the river location and started to drill in the canyon.
Oh, and he never had a permit to do that.
No, just for the river.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so when some of the council started to ask, they said, "Well, let him go. I don't think he's going to find anything. That's too concealed," is what they told me. So he starts to drill into the on a location too. In the left the one in the river alone and moved to the. And so what he told us was that there's 25 pylons. Pylon is 4 by 4, 4 feet by 4 feet. He said that's
a gold or silver bar,
gold,
something like that?
gold bars, and he said that's supposed to be there. And so he was showing us with his detecting equipment that there's something there. And then he had some infrared pictures that was taken, and those flashes were in the canyon. Well, in that canyon, there's signs and symbols from the bottom all the way to where this is. And
I know he had that special camera that he claims was one of 3 from NASA, and he kind of did some special modifications to it, and he'd fly over areas with an airplane, and he'd get flashes show up on his photos, and that indicated to him where treasure was. So when you're saying flashes and infrared, that's probably what he was talking about, maybe? I don't know.
yeah, well, that's what he was talking about, and he showed us one time that equipment and how he uses it and everything else. The river location, a lot of us know about that for a long time. And they tell us, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave it alone. But one of the stories tied, I'm going to jump from that to the river real quick, because one of the stories is there was 2 boys, not 2 boys, but two younger men. They got into it and found the gold, but they came back out. When they came back out, some of our people were waiting for them, and they scolded them. And they cut the one's hand off, and they said, "We don't want you ever coming back. You leave it alone."
Is that a true story?
I'm going to say it's a true story.
Okay.
Of a true story. So he left. And so for the longest time, we were on that one location in the canyon, and it was hard to get to. Really hard, because you had to go, and if you
Still down a road.
yeah, if you messed up with your step, guess what? You would probably end up down at the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was hard. It was during his time, because he only had 3-month period, and then all of a sudden it got too close to that. And all of a sudden he wanted to go back. But what was kind of unique about that hole that we were drilling is sometimes there would be a salamander in there.
Really?
Yeah, so that just was telling us
There's some water there.
there's water somewhere, you know. So he never got to the end of that. We went back down to the river, and then he got a bigger, I don't know what the hell they call them.
Track hole.
Yeah, and he continued to do that. So when he got about 15, 16 feet down, there was burnt cedars he was pulling out. And he was trying to get an extension on his time, but the council said, no, you had enough time. Why did you go to the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have stayed on that one. So that was it with Jim Phillips. He just covered everything back up, left it alone. Yeah, then 2 years, it was a couple of years after that, I ran into a guy. Well, he came to my house. He was looking for me. But I said, what do you want? He said, well, I want to introduce myself to you. My name is Mel Fisher. And he had a big old gold chain on, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says, you know, I want to talk to you about the Golden Rock Creek. Well, I said, well, you know, people are saying you got to leave it alone. The only way you could make this happen is you'll have to meet with the tribal council. He said, can you set that up? So I was just thinking, and I said, yeah, I'll try. I'll ask him tomorrow, then we'll let you know. So I asked him, and they said, well, we don't want to meet with him openly. Have him come in after work. That was about 5. So he came in, and he had all his boys with him. Gold chains, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he introduced his boys to us, and so he sat down. He had a bar, but it would be about like that.
About the size of your phone?
Threw it to me across the table. He says, take a look at this. This come from one of your mines. I said, how do you know that? And he said, well, turn it over. I turned it over. He said, that's the map, Rock Creek.
Really?
That's what he said.
So did he say that was come from the Etosha, or did that come from someplace else? Did he say?
Well, he's the one supposedly that found Latosha, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he started telling us that story about the ship and about losing one family member, and then he says, this come from your land. He said, you have one of the biggest finds ever. And he said, one of the biggest finds ever. He says, the one in the river and the one in the canyon is much bigger. He said what Philip said, 25 pylons, gold stacks.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he said. And I just said, well, how do you know that? He said, well, some of us got information from Spain. And you buy that information, he said. And that's what they did from the black robes. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. That's where we got that information from them. And so we're here to cut you a deal. And I said, okay, what's the deal? 10% for you, and the rest goes to me. And bye.
I laughed him out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one that flew over it on a helicopter, and he's got that detector in that helicopter, and pinpointed that. That's why he wanted it pretty dang bad. Well, he stuck around, but we didn't authorize him to look for that.
To do anything.
He did some stuff up on the forest.
On the tribal ground.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, the tribal grounds, you can't go on there. Do not go on the tribal. It's private property. It's their property, and you got no business there. And if you get caught, you're in big trouble. You're gonna get fined. You're gonna get your
lose
vehicles. You're gonna lose everything. So, man, don't even try it. It ain't worth it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they do, though. For me, I would say all the easy stuff is God. it is. That's what I know. It's sad, but they've never really... They authorized one treasure find, and that was in the early 60s. That individual was a tribal member. And so they paid him $50,000. He's supposed to mark everything down. He didn't do that.
Huh.
He didn't do that. He kept all that information for himself. A lot of the people suspect that he took something.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but nobody got any information on what he found.
So I know Patsy, you was involved a little bit, or knew the people a little bit who was going around with Mel Fisher, or met with him or something. Do you got anything to add to Mel Fisher?
Well, and I don't know how much of this Ron knows. We probably already talked about it, but it's been a long time. But I was told by Mel Fisher that the information that Jim Phillips got, he stole from Mel Fisher.
Ah.
Mel told me that he took it after a meeting they had at a hotel that showed these locations and the flares and all that stuff. And they had all gone out in the parking lot and was having a conversation out there, and Jim asked if he could go back in and use their restroom. And they didn't look right away, so it took them a while before they realized that their stuff was missing. And they're pretty sure that Phillips took it. That's when Phillips came out to make the deal with the tribe, claiming he had all this information.
Interesting.
Yeah, so who knows?
So I know that George Thompson met with them, Bill Blazard met with them, and you got any stories to add with that you was told on that? Or
I just wish I could have been involved with them when they went, but Bill did tell me what amazed him is this is an area that Mel Fisher had never been to before, and he said when he come out, just by the map he had, took him right up to this area and said this is where one of the Montezuma treasures is.
He said Montezuma's treasure?
He said Montezuma.
Really?
And Bill had pointed the area out to me. And of course, I wandered around there. It wasn't on tribal ground, but I wandered around and I didn't see any signs of anything. Of course, it's concealed. But anyway, that's one of the places that Mel Fisher was looking for.
Huh. So they say, Montezuma's treasures is everywhere. Still in Mexico, in New Mexico, in Texas, in Arizona, in Utah. Have you guys heard anything about Montezuma's treasure being up here? And the reason I asked them is those petroglyphs at Sadie McConkey's ranch. Man, them are spectacular. Them are the most spectacular petroglyphs in the United States, I think, and they look like they could be Aztec or Egyptian or something like that.
Where I stay, there's a princess out of rock. So that same princess is over in what's that place called above Vernal? That canyon?
Dry Fork.
Dry Fork.
Yeah, and so that they do something to see how old it is, right? What's that called?
Carbon dating.
Yeah, carbon dating.
They can't really carbon date rock, but they can check the patina.
The patina,
I don't know how they figured. They figured they call it Fremont and they give it an age. I don't know how they figured that. But they,
yeah, so this one's supposed to be way back.
Really?
Yeah, it's a princess out of rock, flat one. There's major what do you call it? Where a lot of the stuff is there, but it's so old it started to fade away. But that princess is there. It's got a snake through her crown.
I've seen that, and she looks Egyptian.
Yeah,
she looks exactly like Egyptian. And and there's also somewhere near Orem, there's a petroglyph of a cat that doesn't really fit. That'd fit more with the Egyptians.
Yeah, there's
also
some
an
writings.
Egyptian one close to La Pointe.
Do you know about that one in Gusher?
No. Oh, actually, yeah, I do.
We need to go on a field trip and see that. I've got pictures of it, but I've never been to it yet.
Yeah.
When you showed me?
I don't know about Gusher.
Oh, you don't know about the Gusher one?
No. I don't.
Oh man, it sounds exactly like what you're describing. This one's you're talking
Maybe
about
that,
in the
unless it's the same one.
You do, because you took me to it.
Yeah, maybe it's the
I'll
same
point
one.
it out too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's some weird writings on the back, not, I don't know. And then there's been some graffiti added to it later, so everybody
Yeah,
says that
there's always graffiti.
it's fake, it's not real, it's graffiti, but
It used to be really perfect, but somebody went in there and shot.
terrible.
Yeah, really, that was terrible,
That
you know.
is terrible.
Are they paint over it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad.
So do you think that had to deal with Aztec or Egyptian or something like that then, or?
Well, if you look where she's looking, she's pointing to something.
Ah.
Yeah, there's a mind there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that mind goes like this. I'm telling her about it, but it goes like this. That opening, but it has this all the way in. Why?
Huh.
Like shelves inside of it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
So is it really a mine or is it something else?
It is a mind.
Huh.
Well, I'm saying it's a mind. We're trying to get her to go up there and go in it.
That's interesting.
Pushing her.
That it would have shelves in it. That seems more.
Well, he had a
that'd be
good
more than
idea on what
more
it could
than a-
be. Tell me what you
A
think
mine.
it is.
I think it's one of the sacred mines. I think it's one of the Rhoades mine.
Huh.
Because it's in that area. Why does it have those shelves on it? That's hard to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one time me and her was up here and we were looking around because my brother said there's a mine there. And we saw these pillars, right? So we started to walk up there and all of a sudden she says, hey, there's something over there. So we went a little bit further and there's a hole. There's a hole down in. And we got some more help. I didn't want to go in there. She didn't want to go in there. And so when we went in there, you could go in there, you could go about 30 feet one way. And it took I don't know how they did it, because we could stand up in there, you could go 30 feet this way and then another 30 that way. But there was a box, a box. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so somebody already took something out of it, but they blew that end.
Oh really?
That's what we figured. So
When you say pillars, what do you mean pillars? Carved in the rock pillars?
no, it's a
Or just natural?
rock formation
Natural
that's
rock.
way high. Yeah, we went in there, heard about 7 of us, and what we found out is if there was something in there, it's gone because they took it out. So
Yeah, I imagine
Well, and
if
that's one
it's
thing-
opened. Yeah.
You don't think about when you go into those caves, you walk in and you explore this and explore that and you come out. The next time you go in, there's a hole dug right in the floor where a box has been taken out. And it's like you just walked over the top of something and didn't even realize you walked over the top of it.
Really?
So
yeah,
that's a good place to hide it.
Yeah. So you talked about the Rhoades mine. The story is that Chief Walker gave gold to Brigham Young, Thomas Rhoades. Is that a true story? Is that real, or do you have any, personal accounts or family accounts or tribal accounts?
I'm going to say it is.
It
is.
real?
Yeah, major mines over here. So 2 years ago, right? I get a call, and it's from our fish and game department. He said, I got a map here. You need to see it.